Hello friends and welcome to this channel. In this video, we are going to learn using data validations in MS Excel. Data validations come very handy if you are preparing an input sheet and want to limit the cells to accept only a certain type of data. It can either be a whole number or number with decimal. Limit the number of characters in case of a strings, put in only time and date, and also if a date needs to be selected from a drop-down menu. You can also apply conditions whether a value should be within a range of more than or less than depending upon your requirement. Now let's quickly jump over in Excel and see how these formulas work. But before we do that, request you to please subscribe our channel if you have not done that so that you do not miss out any of our videos, and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. So without wasting any more time, let's hop on to an Excel sheet. So for this example or exercise, we'll be creating a sample input sheet and we will be applying various forms of data validations to them. So for this input sheet, we will be putting the character validations or the length of the character validations for name. We will be putting data validations on date, that the person needs to be at least 18 years and above. For mobile number, we will be applying a data validation that it should be a whole number and within a range. For gender, we will be inserting a drop-down menu so that the person can select his gender. And for end fees, we will be applying an decimal validation where a person needs to fill in a decimal value. So let's quickly start. For name, we will be limiting the character to say 20 digits. For that, what we will do, on the ribbon on the top, click data and you will find a button called data validation. Click that. Now here we need to put in some settings or parameters for this to work. So as I said, the first one for name, we will be limiting the character to 20 digits. So for that, where it's written allow, we will select this drop down menu and we will select text length. Now it will ask that what kind of validation you want to put in. So if you select this drop down menu, it can be a between two range of numbers or not between them. It can be equal to, not equal to, greater than or less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So as per your need. For this exercise, because I want to limit this character validation to 20 digits, I will put in less than or equal to. So that means that the maximum character that I'll apply or give would be 20 digits. Right? Now we have set that. If you go to the next section, I can also ask Excel to put in some tooltips, or it will print out what needs to be filled in and what message you want to show. So I'll type in enter name. Input message would be character not more than 20 digits. Okay. Now say if someone enters more than 20 digits, then I will tell Excel to show a warning message, to stop it there and give a warning message that it needs to be corrected. So I can give it a title, invalid character length, and the error message can be please limit the character length to 20, and we'll click OK. So now you can see, because this cell is selected, it is giving a tooltip stating enter name, and below that it's typing character not more than 20 digits. So say if I put in an enter a name over here, so say, and please be mindful that it counts space as character as well. A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T V W X. Now if I press enter, see, it's now giving an error that invalid character length what we have entered. Please limit the character length to 20. If you click retry, it will again highlight that whole text so that you can just press backspace or delete, and that will go away. Now if I again put in a name, now because this is less than 20 characters, you can just press enter and see it has now accepted that data. Next, we will apply a validation so that Excel will check that no person is entering any date that is say less than 18 years. So that would have been like in 2005. So all my date of birth should be before 2005. That's what Excel should check. So for that also we'll apply a data validation. Now this time we will apply it for dates. So again I'll click data validation. We'll go to settings. Now this data validation will be applied to this cell, that is B2. That's why it has all gone to default. So if you click here where it's written allow, we'll select date, right? And here now we will specify that the date should be before 1st January 2005. So we'll select greater than, sorry, no, I think it should be less than, yeah, and we'll put in 1st January 5. Okay, now again we'll go to input text. Title would be enter date of birth, age should be at least 18, and here also I'll give an error alert that invalid date. Error message would be you need to be at least 18 years. We'll click OK. Now let's see what happens. So if I now put in say 10 January 2006, see, it's not considering that date because we had given it a validation. So let's retry again. We'll put in say 28 Feb 1990. So now it has considered that date because that's the validation that we had applied, that anyone whose date of birth is before 2005, that should be accepted. So let's again select this field and click data validation, and we'll see what we have done. So I've selected date, it should be less than. Now had this been say date should be, I mean after say from 0 to 18, then we would have selected greater than, right? So start date would have been this, so that means any person who was born after this date will be able to apply, right? So that way it works. So let's keep it as it is, click cancel, right? We will apply a whole number validation for mobile number, and we will also tell it that not to consider any value that is more than the usual mobile number that happens. So again we'll select the cell, we'll click data validation. Now over here where it's written allow, we'll click whole number, right? And where it's written data, we will type in it should be less than a value. So I'll put in say this one. Yeah, can put one more value and we'll click OK. Okay, I need to fill in the other things as well. So this will become enter mobile number. Here also I will mention enter mobile number, and error, if it's not the correct format, then it will be invalid number. and error message would be enter a valid number. Okay, so something just struck my mind. I also want to ensure that no one puts in less than the usual 10-digit number, right? So let's give it a between. So the minimum value would be something like this. Yeah, and the maximum value, yeah. Now let's click OK and let's see what happens. So say I put in a number like this, and let's press enter, and it will say invalid number because that does not fall between the criteria. We'll retry. Say again I put in a number, say like this, again it is giving invalid number because once again this is not falling between that range. Again let's try one more time, and this time it has accepted the 10-digit mobile number. So that's how you can apply a whole number validation as well. We need to select, say for this select gender, I want to insert a drop down menu where the user can select the gender, so that maybe it can be male, female or other. For that, again I'll click this cell, click data validation, where it's written allow, click the drop down menu, and this time click list. So for this, now it will ask you the source. So now there are multiple ways of entering a list. I'll show you the most basic portion right now, and towards the end of this lesson I'll show you what other ways you can fill out a list. So here say it will be like mail, then this will become my first item. For including, say you want to have more than one item, so after each item you need to give one comma, then the second one comma, the third one, and so on. So because we need only 3 items for this, so I'll keep just male, female and other, and we'll click go to input message. Here we'll type in enter gender. Here also I'll enter gender, and ideally it will not have any error alert because you need to select. But say if someone types in directly and does not select, then I'll give select from drop down menu. So select an item from the drop down menu. Okay, now let's click OK. So here you can see a drop down menu has been inserted. So if you click that, it will give you all those 3 options that we had selected. So it can be male, it can be female, and it can be other. So say if I want to type in something else and press enter, it will not let me do that. It will give the message select from the drop down menu, select an item from the drop down menu. So again I'll click retry, and I'll select something from the drop down menu. Okay, yeah. So that's how a list works. But as I mentioned, towards the end of the session, I'll show you some more ways where you can insert a list or data ranges into a list. For interface, I'm going to apply a data validation on integers, or rather not integers. I wanted to accept decimal numbers. So let's put in a data validation for decimals. So again, I'll select this cell, we'll click data validation, go to settings, and here we'll mention decimal, and I want this to have a range between 100 and a maximum of 1000. And let's click on, we'll go to input message. Here we'll type in enter fees to be charged, error alert, so invalid fees, enter a valid fees between 100 and 1000, and we'll click OK. So now if I say I enter something like 80, it will not consider that. If I put in 1001, it will not consider that. So say, let me say I'll put in something like 500. Now it has accepted that. If I put in 500.5, it will still accept that number. So that's how you can apply the data validation on decimals as well. Now, as promised, let's look at the list data validation in a more detail, because that is the data validation which is used more commonly and is a multi-purpose tool. So you can use a list data validation in dashboards as well to fetch data sets, or in other analytical purposes as well. So let me create another sheet. So say I want to insert a drop down menu. So one was the way where I showed you that you can type in your list items like we did in this sheet, where we typed in the various kind of category in gender, so male, female and other. So say you have got multiple items that you want to include in your list, but it's not feasible for you to individually type that in. So one way is that, say in a blank Excel file, you mention all the list items in a sheet like I'm doing over here, right? So what we will do, we'll select the cell A1, click data validation, we'll go to settings, allow a list, and where now it's giving source, on the right hand side you'll see there's a button which will allow you to pick up a range from the Excel sheet. So let's click that and we'll select this range over here and again click this button. So now it has picked up that range. So what this will do is that it will incorporate any value that is given in that range, in that particular range, and it will become a list item in this list validation in the drop down menu. So I've selected that range, and if I click OK, so you will see all of them has been now incorporated in the drop down menu, right? So that is one way of including list items in the drop down menu. The other way is to use a name range. So why use name range is that, one, you can make it dynamic. So say if your range changes, it adds on values and you want that value to be inserted within the range. So what you can do, you can select this range and select one more blank cell and give it a name by clicking on the right hand side corner over here. You can give it a range called my range and press enter. So now what we will do, let's click cell A2 and we'll again apply a data validation. We'll select list. Now here the process is a little bit different. So you need to type in equal to, and here you'll be using a formula called indirect. So what indirect does is that it converts any text into the range that Excel can use. So we'll type in indirect, we'll open a bracket, open a double quote, and we'll type in the name of the range that we had given. So you can type in this, my range, again close the double quote, close the bracket and click OK. So here also now you'll see that it has picked up those values. Now say if you want to add more value, now because I had inserted a blank row over here, if you add a row or insert a row above that and put in another value h, this should ideally update the range. So see, it has now included that range h that we had added. So this way you can make your list as a dynamic list as well, so that you don't have to change it every time. But yeah, make sure that you remember that there is a blank cell and you need to add. So maybe as a reminder, you can type in over here that insert row above and enter value. So next time you will remember to add a row above and you can insert a value, and that will get incorporated in your drop down menu. So here you can see it has now considered that I as well. So that's how you can use a validation in your day-to-day life, and it will make your Excel worksheets a lot more interactive as well. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have learned something new today, and you will also be able to apply data validations in your Excel sheet. I would urge you to practice this as much as you can, so that you can also get proficient with this. So, thank you once again, and do subscribe us and give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and do share these videos as well with your friends and family so that it can help them out as well. So, thank you.